All right. Hello, Tabitha. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, so welcome to Tip Tuesday. We're a little delayed this morning, had a few technical difficulties, so thank you for your patience. Just wanted to introduce you to the audience. This is Tabitha, the millionaire maker, and she is creating the financial lifestyle that families deserve. And she's been doing this for 25 years now. Wow, Tabitha, that's a long time.
Yeah, fell in love with it 25 years ago. I was formerly a nurse, so it's kind of helping people is in my makeup. The difference is, just the way we help people. Both of us are in similar spaces, but I just love to change people's lives and give them hope.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've been in the financial space for 25 years as well, and helping people is definitely a passion of mine. So we definitely have that in common.
Yeah, love it, love it. Uh,
Yes.
just love to see the light bulbs go off, the light bulbs, Christmas time here, go off when they really understand that it's not as difficult, I think, as the industry makes it seem.
Mhm.
Being financially literate, being financially okay, it's not as difficult, I think, as most people have this false idea that, it's hard.
Yeah, and I think that's mostly due to the lack of education. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
actually why I got involved 25 years ago for my own personal situation. It was like my husband and I both had college degrees. I was 24 years old. We were making really close to six figures and we were more broke than when we were in college. And it was like, how is this possible?
Yes.
And it was all about no financial education. We were taught to go get an education, which we both did, but we weren't educated about what to do with the money once we started making it. And I think that's where a lot of people get into trouble.
Hmm.
And then pulling ourselves out of that is a lot more difficult than if we actually had some basic financial knowledge in the beginning. So,
So true. I would absolutely agree with that. And you just mentioning that, coming out of college and starting your career and then not being prepared. I think back to the days in college, when the beginning of every year, they
yeah.
had those tables out there just giving you credit cards
Hmm.
and signing you up for bank accounts, and you had no idea what any of that meant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it seems like, those college students were just being set up for failure from
Failure.
the beginning.
Yeah. Absolutely agree. My college experience was different because I was already a mom. So I
Mhm.
didn't live on campus. I didn't experience the whole college lifestyle. But I remember that when I took my children off to college.
Yeah.
And it was scary. It was scary for me as a parent. I remember my son's college, and we were getting him a bank account that the college, the bank that the college dealt with,
Mhm.
and they were trying to get him to sign to approve overdrafting his bank account
Oh.
because now they have to get your authorization. Most people don't
Mhm.
know that, but they have to get your authorization to allow overdrafts. And they were and my son says, no, if I don't have the money, I don't, no, I don't want that. And she goes, but what if? And she kept, what if you
Right.
want to go home and you don't have any money and you need gas? And he said, well, I guess I just won't go home then.
Right. Exactly.
They were really trying hard, and the overdraft fee was like $39.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, and most individuals don't. The banking industry last year made something like almost $4 million in overdraft fees because we just don't know.
Just don't know. And you're signing yourself up for things and you just don't have any idea
Right.
what the ramifications are
Yeah.
with doing so.
Yeah. And I'm guilty too. You know how when you register for something and you have to agree and you don't really know what you're agreeing to because
Yeah.
in the back of your mind, it's like, well, if I don't agree, I'm not going to be able to do this. So yeah, I guess I agree. Not sure why.
Yeah,
But I mean, so we're all guilty of things like that. But when
we
it
are.
comes to our money, I think we have to just be a little more diligent and pay attention a little more, you know.
So true.
And then the banking industry, they created debit cards because they knew people would overspend.
Yes.
And it's, I mean, there's a ton of information about there about they intentionally did it
Mm-hmm.
because they knew that it was easier to swipe and you would spend more money, and therefore there goes the I didn't even know. I just recently learned from my son, by the way, who said, Mom, he was doing something, paying for groceries or something, and his check hadn't cleared yet. And he said, well, I just had him run it again as credit, and then it goes through. And I'm like,
Yes. Yeah.
I said, AJ, why would you want to do that? What if something's messed up, and you just bought $5 worth of Burger King that's now going to cost you $45? I hope that sandwich was good.
Exactly.
If it's messed up, you know what I'm saying? I mean, so it's just crazy the things that we don't know.
Yeah, that we don't know.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that happened to me um, when I was in college. Gosh, I'm about to date myself because the debit card was just recently introduced and I had no idea. And so I'm at the bookstore buying books. I'm thinking it's a credit card because it has the Visa logo. I
Mm,
swipe the card, buy my textbooks, and then I go to do something else and realize I have no money in the bank. I'm like, where'd
wow.
all my money go?
Wow.
Come to find out that card was linked to my checking account. It,
Wow.
it was a totally new concept.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's just and they're always coming up with new things. So we have to really stay on top of it.
Hmm.
Because if we don't, then that's when we get ourselves in trouble. What I thought would be a great thing because of the time of year for us to discuss, and maybe your audience would find value in, is the end of the year. Everybody's always thinking the end of the year. I
Hmm.
want to do X, Y, and Z different next year.
Yes.
And because we're both in the financial space, it's like, what do I want to do differently in the financial space? So, what do I want to do? What do I want to have? Do I want to go places? What contribution do I want to make to the society or give back? But what we do is, what do I want to earn, save, invest, get out of debt? What what of those things have you been saying to yourself, I need to fill in the blank?
Exactly.
And what we run into is we really run into two types of individuals. The first one is the individual who hasn't even started planning financially. And I'm a firm believer, I'd love to know your thoughts, but uh, I'm a firm believer that the earlier you start, the better it is. I was just on a call with someone before we started, and he was talking about he started his daughter at 18 years old a Roth IRA.
Hmm.
By the time she's 40, there'll be $6 million in there.
Isn't that awesome?
And she's in college right now.
Yeah.
And she actually is in the military and in college. And she said to him, Dad, I'm the only person that's in this particular venture that she's doing in the military. I'm the only person who has an IRA. So the earlier you start, the better it is. So what do you need to start? I think
Yes.
would be a good thing. So I wrote down four things I'd love to and the first thing I hear over and over and over again from individuals, that if you ask them if you could do all over again, what would you do?
Hmm.
The number one answer I get is start earlier. I would have started planning earlier,
Yes.
even when they didn't have any money, because you don't have to have money necessarily to plan. You have to have a plan,
True.
right?
Yeah.
Second thing I wrote down, and we learned this from our Grant Cardone community, is
Hmm.
don't go at it alone. there's experts out there. Now, there's a process that you can go through. We call it do it for me, do it with me, and the DIY, which is do it yourselfers.
Yes.
But you have to start with someone who specializes in helping you get on track to begin with. This is usually because there's lots of questions, right?
Yes,
Then
definitely.
you can gradually move towards, if you're the type of person who will eventually, like myself, I do all my finances by myself now.
Hmm.
But that's my area of expertise. So it's easier for me. Some people will never do it on their own. And in fact, if you study wealthy individuals, they don't do it alone.
No.
So the third thing I wrote down was, it's not as that your current situation, if you're listening, is not as bad as you think it is. Because a lot of people think, I'm underwater, I'm so far behind, I have too much debt, I have this, and this. There's no help for me.
Yeah.
That's a
Not
mindset.
true. Exactly.
We teach broke can be fixed, poor is an attitude.
Ooh, that's awesome.
Broke can be fixed,
Broke can be fixed.
right? We've all been there.
We need a banner.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the last thing I wrote, if you're just starting and you want next year to be different, and we also teach the definition, and everybody's heard this, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting
Hmm.
different results. So if you want next year to be different than 2021 for you, and I'm specifically talking personally, professionally, or and financially, whatever your thing is, uh, then you have to prioritize what's important for you.
Yes.
So it could be, I need to get out of debt.
Right.
I need to have a small emergency fund. I would think the small emergency fund, in my professional opinion, is more important than you getting out of debt.
Correct.
Because what I see over and over and again is you can have a plan to get out of debt and then something happens, because something always happens. That's Murphy's
Always.
Law, right?
Oh.
When you can't afford it, it's going to happen, right? When you don't have time for it, just like the computer this morning, right?
Yeah,
It's going to happen.
it's gonna
You know,
happen.
I so I think that having these small emergency fund, I teach individuals to start with $1,000. Once
Hmm.
we get that, then we can tackle the get out of debt plan. So it's a process, but you have to prioritize this. What's important to you?
Yes.
Anything that you would add to that with your area of expertise?
I definitely agree with the emergency fund. You have to have something. And in this day and age, $1,000 is a great place to start. You know, we always want 6 to 12 months at this point now with the pandemic, because it used to be 3 to 6 months,
Right,
but no one expected to be home this long. And
right,
so now 6 to 12 months is more reasonable, but you want to have something in the event you need to buy a tire. How much is a
right.
tire?
Yeah,
120,
yeah,
$150. Well, $200 sometimes, depending
yeah,
on the car. So if you had $1,000 emergency fund, you just dip into that to do what
right,
you need to do, and then move into your debt management plan and
exactly.
start with whatever makes you more comfortable.
Right,
Uh, People tend to do the highest interest rate, the lower balances. If you have the stamina to do that, larger balance first, and you don't need to necessarily see the win right away, definitely go right
right.
into that. If you
Love
need
it.
to see those small wins, go with
Right,
the smaller balance so that you can see things being removed from your plate
yeah.
one at a time to allow you to keep going.
Yeah,
So
that's why most people don't make it, because it's just
definitely.
like a weight loss strategy or eating healthy strategy or working out strategy.
Hmm.
You know, the results are in the minor details, and a lot of people can't stick it out. And I love what you said about the emergency fund. You're right. It's kind of been an unprecedented last, 2 years now. But if you study it, most individuals, the catastrophe is about a $200 catastrophe.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something major.
Right.
$200, but they don't have the money, so they have to skip this payment to do this, and it causes this downward spiral. And
Yes.
that's why $1,000, and then you divide and conquer. And that's why prioritizing. I know we're almost out of time here, but the second person that we run into is an individual who started. They've started to plan financially, but maybe they're feeling frustrated that they're not getting where they want to go, or they just don't know. Maybe they started on their own, the do-it-yourselfer, and they kind of don't know where to go from here. So
Exactly.
I wrote down 4 points for this individual
Okay.
to ask themselves, has anything changed? So many people have experienced change in the last year
Mhm.
that they never planned for. And this is why you have to, what we teach individuals, you want to revisit your plan at least annually.
Yes.
You should really revisit every time there's a change. But sometimes we get so caught up in the emotions of the change
Mm-hmm.
that we forget to review.
Yeah.
And that's why the once a year is so important, no matter if there's a change or not. The second thing I wrote down is you want to ask yourself, am I saving enough? Do I know?
Mm.
Some people just start saving and they really don't have the end result or the goal in mind. So they don't even know if it's enough.
Right.
So then they get closer to retirement and they're like, oh my goodness, I haven't saved enough. And
Mm-hmm.
so, it used to be people worked for 30 years. Now they're working for 40 and 50 years
Right.
to be able to retire.
Yes.
My average client is retiring around the age of 70 now versus it used to be 55. When I started in the financial space in 1996,
Mm-hmm.
the average retiree was retiring at 55.
Wow.
And now it's 70.
Now it's 70.
25 short years.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I know.
that's a big deal. The third thing I wrote down is, where can I find more to save? And this goes back to the others, don't go at it alone. Because when we're used to looking at the fine details,
Mm-hmm.
whereas most individuals just look at the balance in their checkbook at the end of the month and it's like, I don't have any more money to save.
Right.
Whereas when you have someone helping you strategically with this, we look at the fine details so we can find, and we're not stepping over dimes, right, to get,
Right.
but we find these things. Most people just don't know where their money goes.
Right.
And the last thing I wrote down is, you want to review your coverage amounts for your home, auto,
Ooh.
and your life insurance. Those should
Yes.
be reviewed annually,
Yes.
because things change. I just had someone who their homeowners insurance, the rebuild cost to their home was going to be about 400,000, and their homeowners insurance was only covered for 159.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And people just don't realize it, because what they're looking at is the dollar amount. How much does
Mm-hmm.
it cost
Yes.
annually or however often you pay for it? And they don't necessarily look at the details. Something significant happened this past year in Michigan where they changed our auto insurance laws.
Oh wow.
So we're a no fault insurance or a no fault state. So they required everybody to have unlimited comprehensive coverage, collision coverage.
Whoa.
What this meant was unlimited for medical care and all of that. Okay. Everybody had to have that. Why? That's why Michigan was in the top 5 most highest auto insurance rate states. Yeah. Nobody wants to live in Michigan when
No.
So they changed that. So what happened is a bunch of individuals took that coverage and put it down to the bare minimum. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not
And
always the best thing
no.
because I mean, I have someone, a good friend of mine who goes to my gym, and her daughter was involved. One child died, and one
Oh,
child had a major brain injury from and if she didn't have unlimited coverage on her car insurance, she still has to have physical therapy. She has speech
wow.
therapy, all of these things, because she was relearning all these things over again. They
Hmm.
would be beyond what the insurance company would have covered.
True.
So that's why looking at your coverage amounts is important. And when it comes to life insurance, it's the kind of coverage you have and the amount.
Yes.
Average death claim paid, they don't have 2021 numbers, but the average death claim paid in 2020 through all this COVID stuff, right,
Yeah.
was still only just a hair over $15,000.
Wow.
If the primary breadwinner dies, what's 15,000 going to do?
Exactly.
And if the only coverage, this is the last thing and that
Sure.
I'll share, if the only coverage you have is through your employer,
Hmm.
find out from someone what happened during COVID when everything was shut down and they were no longer working.
Yes.
And the person passed away and they had no coverage
Yes.
because they're not working. If all you have is employer coverage that's
Hmm.
through your work and you're no longer working, COVID, or because now you have cancer and you can't work, all that
Hmm.
coverage goes away and now you're not going to get coverage.
Yes.
So that's why we say review these things. Those are the tips I had for someone who's already doing something and what they should do annually as far as a review. Anything else?
Yeah, I definitely liked what you said about the auto insurance and giving the example of the individual who was in the car accident. Not only is the auto insurance coverage important, but having long-term care insurance. People think long-term care is, oh, I'm going to be in a nursing home. I don't need to worry about that till I'm like 50, 60. But in that example, long-term care would have supplemented
Mhm.
even a 20-something year old
Right.
to cover those expenses, as they recover from the accident. So that's extremely important.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I didn't even think about that. But her accident was 8 years ago,
Yeah.
and she still needs continuous care.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, I didn't even think of long-term care
Yeah.
at all. But you're absolutely right about that.
Yeah. I've
And
been sharing more about that.
people think it's for old people. You're
Yeah.
right.
It's for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
So
then having the life insurance outside of the job, it's so important. And getting it as young as possible. Like you said, people got laid off due to the pandemic. And you never know. At that point, you could be 40, 50 years old. You've been on the job for a long
mhm,
time. And now
mhm,
you're laid off and you have medical conditions and it's harder to get approved.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
getting that coverage as young as you can to supplement
Yeah.
your what's on the job is
Yeah.
important.
I never used to believe in insuring your insurability.
Yeah.
I never really used to think about that for a 2020. The person I was just talking to was a 25-year-old when we got on, and it's ensuring your insurability.
Right.
You don't have to have millions of dollars,
No.
but it's so inexpensive when you're younger. If you
Yeah.
can lock in those prices when you're younger. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's I think that sometimes we just get so busy with life that we have every intention
Mm-hmm.
of getting our finances in order, but
Yes.
then life happens. And before we know it, I don't know about you, but it doesn't feel like I've been doing this for 25 years.
No, not at all.
It almost feels like a flicker. It's like, wow, it's been 25 years
It's
already.
been 25 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, again, and I'm thankful. I share our story all the time. I am so thankful that we got our finances in order when we were young. I think
Mhm.
it saved our marriage
Yeah.
because it's the number one cause for divorce, money.
Definitely.
So I always say it saved our marriage. We had been married for 5 years before I got involved, and we fought about money all the time because we weren't in alignment
Right.
about our money. And two, I paid and did all the money stuff. My husband had no clue. So he didn't know what it looked like. And I think it's very important whether one person pays all the bills and manages it all. It's very, very important that the other individual, significant other, partner,
Mhm.
be involved so they
Yes.
understand. We had this rule early on that he had to go to the grocery store with me once a month because
Yeah.
he would always complain about the grocery bill. I
Yep.
done that. I'm like, you know,
Like that's just the basics.
yeah, yeah. So I appreciate you taking the time and allowing me to
Yes.
be here, and it was a pleasure. And if anybody has any information, they can reach out to me. I'm on Facebook. I have a YouTube channel called Tabitha, the Financial Fitness Gal. That's what they call me.
All
And
right.
I'm on Facebook, Tabitha. You can reach out to me there, or you can. I'm on. I just started TikTok. Haven't really got the hang of that yet. Okay,
Wow.
yeah. And I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn. It's Tabitha, the Financial Fitness Gal, on all those platforms. And yeah, I'd love if there's anything further I can do for you. Absolutely, more than welcome to
Mhm.
collaborate with individuals. Even though we're in similar spaces, we can always help each other grow.
Absolutely. And I definitely appreciate all of the information you shared this morning. We'll definitely have to do it again because we could have gone on forever.
Yeah,
So
yeah. All right,
let's definitely do this again.
for sure.
Follow Tabitha, subscribe to the channel. We will chat with you soon.
All right. Thanks again for
Thank,
listening. Bye bye.
thank you.